Self-love. I think for the longest time, my confusion around this whole idea around self-love um, was I really mistook it for self-indulgence. And so I've always, it's like, if you're going to love yourself, you pamper yourself, you treat yourself, you excuse all your bad behavior, and you just, tolerate everything about yourself. And I think for me, what I've come to understand the older I've gotten is that it's not about indulgence, and it's actually about self-nurturing. And I try to think of myself almost the way I would think about another person, and what would loving that person look like. So if it's my child, when you're loving your child, you're not just giving them everything they want. You're thinking about, well, what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for you means saying no, and saying, think longer term. Don't just give in to that immediate self-gratification. I feel like eating that cake, so I'm just going to eat it because I love myself and I'm going to let myself do what I want. It's actually, no, the loving thing is to do what's good for you, and to take care of yourself. So, yeah, I think my understanding has really shifted. I think another thing that I've figured, like that I'm learning, is to live with the contradictions and live with the fact that two truths that can sound like they can't coexist can actually coexist. So you can know that there are parts of you you want to change, and yet you can still accept yourself as who you are. So I think we all have our good and our bad and our dark sides and our shadows and our really beautiful, light, loving sides as well. Um, and for some reason, and maybe this is true for most people, but the more that I accept my darker side, the less it has to show up. It's almost like it shows up when you're in denial, but when you can sort of say, yeah, I've got a side of me that is ugly, that I don't really like. And I think a lot of understanding where it came from, what drives it, what triggers it, what brings it out, because it's almost always in some form of self-defense. You're feeling attacked, and so, or you're feeling disrespected, or whatever that is, so getting to know that part of yourself and getting to, like I said, understand where it comes from, I think helps calm it down. And then you over time, you see less and less of it. I think the hardest times, the times when when you're most sad, when you're most lonely, when you're most ready to give up, somehow kind of digging deep and realizing that at the end of the day, as much as we are loved and we have people around us, you're actually on your own. I mean, that's the hard truth, is that we are ultimately the only person we will always be with is ourselves. And so if you don't like yourself, then that's going to be hard, And my mom, who's 84, and I admire so much about her, but, she always says to me, Wandia, be your best friend, because then you'll never be lonely. Like, you'll always have somebody whose company you enjoy, and that's you. And she, at 80, 82, is still doing solo trips, going to countries around the world by herself. And she looks forward to it as if she's going with a friend, So that's always been hard for me. I've always wanted other people. I've never really liked doing stuff alone, So even if I'm in a place where I haven't explored, I haven't gone to restaurants or whatever, I'll be like, no, if it's by myself, I'll just stay in the room. I'll just order room service. And my mom's like, what are you saying? Like, get out there, go see. There's a whole world out there to discover. And you can have just as much fun doing that on your own. What do I like about myself? Um, I like the fact that I ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions of other people, but I ask them of myself as well. So I like my curiosity. I like the fact that I give myself permission to change, to change my mind, to adapt, to learn new things. Like I never feel like I know it all, or I've figured, I've reached, I'm always sort of open. I can be stubborn, so sometimes shifting a perspective is not that easy, but I'm always willing to sort of help me understand what it is I'm not understanding. That's two. I think third is I like the fact that I'm a loyal friend. Okay, so I don't even know if I'm going to pick one thing that I like to do the most, but I like appreciating the little things. Like I love showering. It sounds crazy, but I like getting into a shower. I like feeling the hot water. Concept, the pressure is nice. And I think it's also because when you're in the shower, nothing else is happening. There's no phone. There's no one calling you. Like people leave you alone in the bathroom. So it's like time. It's just my time for me, and to sort of just appreciate how fortunate even taking a shower is a lucky thing. Being able to have hot water is a lucky thing. So I always feel I'm reminded how lucky I am. What else do I like to do? I'm not very good at like the whole grooming thing. Like even now I'm hiding my nails because they're so bad. I'm like, did I put on my feet pararad? So I'm not good at that kind of. I go for massage, and I mean once in a while I will, but I think for me self-care is connecting. So like reaching out to a friend and saying, man, we haven't caught up for a while. Let's, I want to know how you're doing. I want to share what's been happening with me. That's nurturing for me because my relationships matter probably more than anything. Yeah, so I got to 55, again, I mean, it's nothing special. I just have lived this long, but again, you don't take when you get older, you don't take it as much for granted. Like every year it's like, wow. I mean, as much as I complain about aging, I don't like all the physical ramifications and whatever, but it's still, you reached. There are many people who never get there. So I celebrated with friends. We had a long brunch at a hotel that does an amazing spread and bottomless mimosas and stuff like that. So that was my celebration. When I'm down, when I'm stressed, I am not very nice to be around because I become irritable, I become impatient. And what I'm trying to do more and more is to catch it, to sort of, before because it's like it can spiral, and the next thing you know, you're having fights with people that you don't really need. So I try to catch it. I try to breathe, and I think breath is really important. Like just taking deep breaths and, whew, because I think we all have levels of anxiety, and learning for yourself what helps. For some people it's breathing, for some people it might be going out and exercising, like just burning the energy out. For other people it might be praying or meditating or listening to music. I love to dance, so for me dancing will take me from a shit mood to a good mood in seconds if the right song comes on. Or it's hard. There's certain songs that I know it's hard not to be happy or not to, want to get up and dance. Yeah, and if I really can't get rid of it, I go to sleep. Because, it's very rare you're going to sleep and wake up in the same mood. So just go to bed. I think being self-critical is actually quite healthy. I think when you become mean to yourself, when you start talking to yourself in ways you would never talk to, which is another thing, it's another part of self-love. Like, we often talk worse to ourselves than we would to people we love. But that doesn't mean even when you love someone that you can't challenge them, or you can't say, my friend, I know you can do better, like, I know this isn't good for you, or whatever. So I think the important thing is to remember, even when you're critiquing yourself, to do it kindly, and to be loving, even when you're saying those things. I don't know that I'm trying to think if I'm really hard on myself. I think I have high standards, which I hold for myself, I hold for everybody else. But I also try not to stay stuck. So the times when I'm hardest with myself is when I feel like I've done something really stupid. Like I got conned, like I was conned once in China. Where I went to a money changer and they did everything. They moved so quickly. And then the next thing I know, I left and I got back to my hotel and I realized they had stolen like $1,000+ in that whole exchange. I was so angry at myself for so long because I was like, why didn't I just pay attention? Why wasn't I slower? Why didn't I? And then you realize there's nothing you can do. It's done, So you had the bad experience and now you're going to carry it on by continuing to beat yourself up for weeks or months, So I'm like, but those are the ones I struggle with. I can be upset for long. I mean, I don't even want to think about it because it just brings back all those bad memories. But I try to let it go sooner now. Yeah, because it's not helpful. It's not like the most you can do is just learn. Like, okay, now could have been worse. Yeah. Maybe they could have stolen twice that amount. But just learn the lesson. What is it you did to contribute? Like, So those are really big words: self-compassion, self-forgiveness. It's hard, I actually think it's easier to be forgiving of other people than it is of yourself. And self-compassion. It's a journey. I'm still learning, or I'm still understanding that. But I think it comes, for me, what matters is that I know, like truly deeply down in the bottom of my heart, I know that we are all good people, myself included. Even the people who do the worst things, like they were traumatized, they were messed up, something happened to them. And that doesn't mean that they should get away with it. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't face the consequences of their actions, but I don't think anyone is born bad. So even for myself, when I know I'm doing stuff that is unacceptable and whatever, I'm like, okay, where does that come from? What are you afraid of? Why are you reacting so strongly to this situation? And then you start asking yourself, and often it means going back, like going way back. Like, when did that start? When did you start feeling that way? What was happening? Because it's typically the worst things we do are like strategies that we developed to cope with a situation when we were young. And so when you that self-awareness journey, I think, is the beginning of self-compassion. Because when you understand why you do what you do, then you can start to change it. Then you can start to, learn how to recognize it and learn that it's not just about what's happening now, that you're carrying with you years. And by the time you get to my age, it is decades of shit, right? And now you have to sort of say, well, how much of that do I still need? And do I need it all the time? Or can I choose when to pull those tricks out of the bag? And I think you need it less. We need it much less than we think we do. Like most of the time that we're behaving in ways that require forgiveness later, it's because we think that's the only way to deal with the situation, but there's so many other ways.